Nanosoma does not heal, treat, or cure anything. What it does is triggers the body to heal itself.
Well, welcome everyone. We're so pleased that you came out tonight to visit with us, and we are so excited about having Dr. Richard Presser and Dr. Raghavan here, the developer and also the supporter, worldwide distributor for the Nanosoma products. And it is a worldwide product. I mean, we have got stores, Richard, in how many stores now?
We have stores running in the US, of course, in Australia, in Europe. We are working on getting one up and going in the UK when we can get it in the bottle. There is an operation in India run by my colleague Murali, and we have people that are beginning to supply it in South Africa. We're getting the doors open in several other countries as we speak. So today, the active stores are India, South Africa, Australia, Europe, and of course the US.
Exciting. It's really exciting. And I know you're working so diligently on that. And it's amazing, everyone. To keep everything in stock has just been incredible. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and do a brief introduction of both our doctors here and our friends today. Richard worked in the IT industry, and he's got a PhD in materials engineering, including running his own business in the 1980s and 90s. And after some years running a spiritual-based business with a partner in the US, Richard set up an online business in 2016 to sell technology products. He now runs 2 online businesses globally, one of which sells Nanosoma products. And Dr. P.R. Raghavan, we like to call him Raghu, he's endeared that way. And basically, he's the chairman and CEO of Nanosoma Incorporated. Raghu has a PhD in organic chemistry from Oregon State University in 1979, and MS in chemistry in 1972 from IIT, Mumbai, India. He has worked on drug discovery for over 25 years at Columbia University, Max Planck Institute, Germany, Novartis and Boehringer Ingelheim Pharmaceuticals. His fields of specializations are CNS, inflammation, AIDS, and ACE inhibitors. His experience in drug research includes chiral synthesis, process, scale-up, and clinical research. He has been working for the last 15 years in the area of nanomedicines and food supplements. And I want to be the first one to say, I am so blessed, and we are blessed, but I am so blessed to be able to call these wonderful gentlemen as friends. They're 2 of the most committed individuals that I'm aware of, and we have a lot of really close friends in our community that are all engaged in this. And they're committed to supporting everyone in the world to reach the highest levels of health and to connect with the true essence of our being. And they're right on target with everything we're doing. And most of you here are going to be aligned with that as well. And without further ado, what we're going to start with is the brief explanation of Nanosoma. Perfect. All right. Well, fantastic. We still got some people coming in, but Richard, please go ahead.
Thank you, Rex. Firstly, let me say that I find it a great honor and responsibility to help spread Raghu's extraordinary product across the world. In my opinion, this is the most amazing gift to human health that has ever been. And so let me preface what I say by saying Raghu's product, Nanosoma, does not heal, treat, or cure anything. What it does is triggers the body to heal itself. And when I say heal itself, it has triggered the body to heal everything that it has been tested against. This is a pretty profound statement to make. So let me briefly explain what Nanosoma is. The essence, excuse me, the essence of Nanosoma is a nanoemulsion of polycosanol. Polycosanol is very commonly in our unrefined foods. The most common sources are unrefined sugar from sugarcane, unrefined rice, and really, as Raghu puts it, in the sun-splashed areas of all plants. And so it's very commonly part of our unrefined foods. And in fact, there are many polycosanol supplements that are available in the market. I haven't tried to add them up in the US, but I can tell you in Australia, last time I checked, there are over 30 of them. And these are natural supplements which have some effect on cholesterol levels. They're considered to be a cholesterol lowering option. But the trick is not just using polycosanol. The trick is taking polycosanol and turning it into a nanoemulsion. That's when the magic happens, and that's why Raghu has been able to patent this around the world, covering about 80% of the global population, because when you turn it into a nanoemulsion, the results are not predictable. Now, this product was described in the Indian spiritual text, the Rig Veda, 5600 BC. So our ancestors knew about this. And so how I describe this is that effectively it acts to activate our bodies. I call this the missing key to the functioning of our bodies that we didn't know was missing until it showed up. It is truly that profound. So this product of Raghu's Nano Soma triggers the body to produce a replica of the human genome. So far in Raghu's research, to within 99%. He's working on demonstrating it covers the rest. I'm now satisfied that this little particle actually brought the blueprint of biological life to the planet. Its relationship with us is that profound. It's been present in our unrefined food all the way along, kind of whispering to our bodies. But then when our food got refined, it disappeared. And in my opinion, this is one of the key reasons why we've seen this explosion in autoimmune diseases and allergies and all manner of things. But here we are, and this is spreading across the planet. And in my opinion, none of that is any accident. And so its relationship with our biology, as I say, is simply profound. We have something like 48 or 9 nuclear receptors in our cells. This is the, you might say, operating system of our biology. These nuclear receptors control pretty much everything that's going on in the body. And what Raghu has demonstrated from his gene work is that this regulates all of those receptors. This is profound. So there are tests available for 27, I believe the number is, and for 22 of them, the results are absolutely clear. It's regulating them. The other 5 are a little ambiguous, but from Raghu's gene work, he's satisfied that it's regulating all of them. So let's take the vitamin D receptor as perhaps the most well-known of them, which is key to our immune system, as you would understand. Vitamin D can turn on the vitamin D receptor. But if it's overactive, which is an issue in some health conditions, vitamin D can do nothing. Whereas Nanosoma will tone down or turn down the vitamin D receptor if it's overactive. In other words, it's regulating it, turning it on and turning it off. This is unheard of. As I said, it's not just the vitamin D receptor, but every one of our nuclear receptors in the cells. So, as I said, it's like the key to the functioning of our biology that we didn't understand. In addition, it also triggers the body to produce its own vitamin C by taking the oxidized vitamin C from our food and converting it back into vitamin C. And when you do that, the body says, I know you, that's my vitamin C, it's endogenous. And so the body is able to sustain much higher levels of vitamin C when it needs to than you could ever get through supplementation, because the body throws most of it away. Just as with For example, when you use insulin, if someone has to take insulin, it's recognized that you need about 20 times as much than the body itself uses. It's not clear why that's so, but it is. So the body has some way of recognizing its own, you might say, endogenous chemicals, if you will, that we don't understand, but it's very real. And so the body, when nanosoma is present, is capable of generating its own vitamin C. Again, this is unheard of. So we're dealing with something here that's quite profound. And I will just add one more thing, and that is it reverses the aging process. So Raghu is 70 today. He's been using it for perhaps 11 years. 2 years ago, his measured biological age was 51. Today it is 48. In other words, his biological age is running, his biological clock is running backwards. So I'm chasing him now. It'll take me a while to catch him up. So there it is. And Raghu plays at least 10 hours of badminton at the highest levels every week. And he doesn't raise a sweat. He chases all the youngsters off the court. They can't keep up with him. So, he's living proof of what his magical product is about. And so with that introduction, Raghu, I'll pass across to you, my friend, to perhaps talk about some of the detail.
Okay, thank you. So what I'm going to do is give you a brief background of how we came to this product and a few other applications in different areas. And then finally, we go into the area of neurology, which I'm sure interests many of you in mental health. So what I'm going to do is we call this product metadicol. The reason I gave the name metadicol was the anagram of it means methodical. And that's exactly what we found. So that's how the name, it's also called Nanosoma, or we got it Nano-Ogis as well. Those are the two brand names. So if we work on the assumption that whatever is accepted as true, then there will be no hope of any advancement in science. So the major problem in the world are the result of the difference between how nature works and how people think. The problem is we don't look at nature. We are just looking at how people are thinking, and that's applications we're making. All my work you can download from the site researchgate.net or academia.edu. You will find all of them. It's a PDF files. And this is now the coverage of our patents. The only patent that is missing that we expect this year would come from Brazil. That's the only one missing. One of my patents, the one in 2014, the third patent, the notice of allowance from the date it was published to the date it was allowed was exactly 31 days, maybe less. And this was the fastest patent approval in US history since 1791. I beat Tesla as well as Edison in terms of the fastest approval. See, all the work that I'm talking about, we do this by third parties. So every work I report, we have outsourced it to people who do it as a service contract with us. So for example, LSU Health, which we used, they did all the rat studies. The Virginia Tech, we used, we outsourced all our gene expression work to them. They did it. The Utah State University did the viral research for me. Of course, we pay for it. We pay heavily as a business. So we're all over the world. And this is the problem, which was forecast in the 50s, that medical science has made such progress there's hardly a healthy human being left. And there's an old Ayurvedic proverb: when the diet is wrong, medicine is of no use. When the diet is correct, the medicine is of no need. So I think this is what Nanosoma is about. Okay. So today we have more experts, more drugs, and less wellness. Let me skip a few. And one of the mistakes that people have made is that we assume that all modern diseases are unrelated conditions and don't have a common cause. That's why, you know, you have experts in endocrinology, cardiology expert, you have an expert in arthritis, you name it. We have broken the human body up into so many tiny pieces that there's an expert for every little piece. But actually, all of them are related. And you see, disease is a cellular phenomenon. So we started with a single cell when life evolved. And so everything, every disease is reducible to the disturbance of cells. And therefore, it was said by E.B. Wilson, the Harvard biologist. He said the key to every biological reaction is in the cell. And by that, they mean the nuclear receptors. And the other thing we have to notice is that our cells, 90% of our cells are bacteria, viruses, the other microbes. 7% is junk DNA, and only 3%, about 23,000 genes, are actually what is the focus of today's pharma and medicine. We ignore the elephant in the room, which is the human microbiome. I mean, if we take a blood sample of your legs or the knees, you will find the black plague there. Evidence that you had the black plague passed on from generations. So we are ignoring the most important thing, which happens to be the microbiome. So we are only 3% human. So basically, we are about 10 trillion cells we have, human cells, but we have 100 or even more trillions of cells, which are bacteria and viruses. So if you look at our bacterial information, 99% is bacterial and virus genetic information that we carry. And this is the other thing that people in this world have forgotten. We are now shut down the world for one virus, but look at the number of viruses we have in the world. It's 10 followed by 33 zeros. That's just the viruses. Then you have bacteria, then you have other things. So we only 10 to the power of 9 human beings. So we are a minority in this world, you know. And the only way you're going to survive against this kind of numbers is you need to protect yourself with more immunity to protect yourself from these guys. And hold on. Most of the bacteria that we have is actually in the gut. And you know, people don't understand that all these medicines that we take, they disturb the gut bacteria. This was published, I don't know, 10 years ago, Cornell University, where this is our bacterial diversity on the left, the different colors. Look at it after 7 days. You took a course of, you know, clindamycin, which happens to be an antibiotic. It takes 9 months before you begin to get some kind of diversity. All your bacteria is destroyed. And this is the problem with each and every drug. You are destroying your gut bacteria. People think it's fun just to take a pill for every ill. So you need to do it in a way that doesn't harm your gut bacteria. And this is the classical problem which didn't exist until 2000, which was when Craig Venter sequenced his own genes, the first human genome. What we have found since then is we only have 20 to 23,000 genes. But for every gene, there are 360 microbial genes. So that adds up to, if you multiply 20,000 by 360, you get 7.2 million genes. So if you want to target a gene, which is what all the pharmaceutical companies talk about, it's 1 in 7.2 million. Your chance of winning in Las Vegas are far greater than this. Yet we believe that. That is why none of the drugs have ever worked. When they cost here and there, most of it is placebo effects, you know. And this is the other problem that the pharma and the medical industry suck in, you know. For every gene, there has to be a disease and one drug. And this is the problem in medicine. We're doing the same thing again and again and expecting a different result. That's why we have so many Me Too drugs. If you look at statins, there are 10 different statins by everybody else because they're just copying each other. It's called the Me Too drugs. So we are not doing anything different. We are just doing the same thing again and again, hoping for a miracle. That's not going to happen. And this is the question that nobody ever asks. You see, you have all these drugs for every disease. The question always nobody's asked is, hey, if one of them worked, we wouldn't have, for example, diabetes. There are 120 drugs to treat diabetes. If even one worked, the rest would be out of business. It's like our software, there are only Microsoft, there's Apple, and possibly Linux, and maybe one more. Everybody else is out of the system. They've lost. So this is the basic approach we took, that food is medicine. This is what Hippocrates said to every physician. I don't know if it's part of the Hippocratic oath, probably it's not. He who does not understand food, how can he heal the diseases of men? So the key is to understand food, because we eat food to boost our immunity. That's how we live. We don't take drugs to live, So this is where, we started this whole project. There was a guy called Stephen D. Felice, the chairman of the Institute of Medicine. He must be close to 100 by now. In 1995 or 96, he gave a lecture in New York. I happened to attend. End of the lecture, he mentioned that one good nutraceutical will wipe off all the drugs. So everybody laughed as if it was a joke. But I said, what if he's right? This particular sentence stuck in my head. This was the business plan of Nanorex. One nutraceutical to wipe off all the drugs, because you need to be focused. And this happens to be the best way to focus on. So the question we ask is, if you have hundreds of drugs for one disease, why not one drug that will target many diseases? So let me see where it began. And you see, there is a history of this product. The history just happens to be that in the early 80s, 1880s, the Dutch physician who went to East Indies, which is now Indonesia, he found the chicken got polyneuritis when they had polished rice. But when there was nerve degeneration, paralysis, and so on. But when he put back unpolished rice, it disappeared. And this is the key. What was removed is our product. And that product is, we call it Montague-Bauer, Nano Soma, whatever. We use that. And this is what the product contains. It's a very simple molecule, just simple carbon and alcohol. And this is found in all the foods you eat every day. So the C28, the middle one, is the major one. It's over 80%. The rest are minor. This is about, this is about 85%. This is about 10%. This is about 5%. We get it from the skin of the sugar cane, or the whatever is removed from the top of the rice is this product. And the problem with this product is it's a wax, and it's totally insoluble in water. This is what is sold in the market. It's totally useless because never absorbed by the body. We then convert this, using nanotechnology to a product which is half the size of a human virus. This is the product which we are selling. Let me see. Okay. These are the products we have. I haven't put Nano Soma here, but this is in around the world, different products. We have a gel as well as a cream. And the first thing we did, this is going way back in 2009 or 10. 2009, we started a small study to see how good this is. So we took 15 patients who had metabolic syndrome and see what happens to all the parameters. So there were 7 females, 7 males, and there was one person who happened to be a guy who was not supposed to be there, but I'll tell you a story later. There were no diet control, no nothing. The first thing we noticed was everybody's blood pressure became normal very quickly. We're talking in around 3 weeks, just became normal. Everybody said they had a slight headache, and then we found out that it was because their blood pressure were being normalized. Then we looked at each and every person's blood pressure, and you can see clearly it affected everybody across the board. I mean, there were people with 180 becoming 120 in just 12 weeks, which is unheard of, And if you look at the common drugs in the world, it takes about 3 years, 4 years, 5 years, and they don't even get to 120. See, the other thing that we noticed was improved lipid profiles. We see HDL go up. We see cholesterol pretty much normal. We don't touch cholesterol that much. I will tell you why. But here is the interesting thing. In week 24, there was a sudden jump of cholesterol across the board, everybody. I didn't understand for a while what was happening. This was in 2009, possibly 2009, August or so, or September, around that time. This turned out to be the reason why cholesterol went up was during that time, we had the avian flu, 2009. And this is where the body's defense, cholesterol shoots up. Whenever you have an infection, cholesterol goes up. And none of these people ever got the flu. So that was the first hint that it works in infectious diseases as well. The other thing that we do is something that is against medicine. People have been taught. We increase LDL. And people say, wow, why do you increase LDL? See, LDL is not bad cholesterol. It's actually good cholesterol. The problem arises when the size of the LDL is small. When you make it big, the number for LDL doesn't matter. You can have 200 LDL. As long as the particles are big, it doesn't matter. It's only when they're small you have a problem. And this is what it is. You see here, the graph I have, you see triglycerides go down, and you see there is the inflection point around 1.3. The ratio of triglycerides to HDL keeps decreasing. As it decreases, the size of the LDL particle increases. So when it goes below 1.3, all the particles are big, and they're anti-inflammatory at that stage. We also have CRP levels go down, and the other part is we see vitamin C go up. One of the interesting points here is our p-values are all without double-blind study or whatever. Our p-values are very good, just in open study. And just to give you CRP levels, the statin, one of the statins that is used, it took them from 0.23 to 0.19. It took them 5 years, and they considered it a great study. Here, this is actually 0.23 to 0.19. It's 0.04 reduction. We have a reduction from 3.6 all the way to 1.9, nearly 50%, 1.8 milligrams per deciliter. It's a huge number compared to this. And we also have, improvement in insulin resistance, blood sugar going down. This was in this population. And I just want to focus on, and also, sorry, this is the guy. No, not this one. No. I'll have to come back to this later. One of the things I want to talk about is we are able to produce vitamin C. Now, cows produce vitamin C, but from the guinea pig, macaw, orangutan, chimpanzee, and the humans, we stopped producing human vitamin C. That is, a conversion of glucose becomes vitamin C. All the animals, people say don't give sugar to dogs. I don't think it's a risk because the dogs will convert the sugar directly back to vitamin C. So we are the only species which we can't produce vitamin C in the body. But because if you could produce, you would solve the problem of diabetes, because all the sugar will become vitamin C, you have an antioxidant, you know. And so we did a study of vitamin C patients. There's another study we did of 30 patients. And what we saw here is a 4-fold increase in vitamin C levels. This is published work. So, and the p-value are amazing. And once vitamin C goes up, a lot of good things begin to happen. And this is what it is. You have glucose, it goes to vitamin C. There is this enzyme called GULO, G-U-L-O, that's not active in human beings, but it's active in all the other species. The last time it was active in the human cell was about 40 million years ago. And you see here, if you took, somebody had done a study in the proceedings of the National Academy of Sciences, they gave a lot of vitamin C. This is up to 1,000 milligrams. The level you reach is around 75, okay? So it's a micrograms, not a whole lot. It doesn't matter how much C, they went from 30 milligrams of vitamin C to 1,000 milligrams of vitamin C. The level plateaus out at 74. But what happens in our case is interesting. People who have very low vitamin C, for example, this person's vitamin C was 0.15. And in a 90-day period, 1160% increase. But what happens when this increase happens, you see his fasting level comes down, his muscle mass increases, triglycerides came down, HbA1c dropped, and his body fat dropped. So a lot of things begin to happen when you produce your own body's vitamin C, which you don't get if you take it externally. Here is another case of a person who went from 13 to 107, a 900% increase. And look at his TSH levels, it was 26, dropped all the way to 4. And look at his AEC, which is what do you call absolute eosinophil count, is an asthma patient. It dropped by 2/3. So the key is if the body produces what it needs, it knows what to do with it. When we give it from the outside, it's not the same. Here is another person who has some other issues. See, we are not talking about the same parameters. This person's from 9 to 103 was a vitamin C increase. His sodium was low, it stabilized. His urine, creatinine in the urine went up, and his blood pressure dropped. So each person, whatever the solution is, happened. This other person went from 9 to 68. Both systolic and diastolic pressure became normal. His bilirubin was so high, it became normal. Creatinine in the urine went up. Here's another one who had thyroid antiperoxidase. And this number is very high because this is the limit of the study. It could have been 10,000 for all I know. Thyroid TSH came down, creatinine went up. You see, red cell distribution width became normal. This is the size of the red cell. This has to be an optimal size. Otherwise, it can't carry oxygen. So what we see is average, everybody's HbA1c dropped, okay? No, this I don't want to know. And there are people who took, who are taking drugs. They could take our product and the blood glucose, will normalize over time. Let's see. So it works, it works in thyroidism. It also works in hyperthyroidism. The same thing works the same way. Here is a person who had hypothyroidism. It became normalized in about 4 months or so. So I want to come to, hold on. So these are the nuclear receptor assays we have made against thyroids, thyroid receptors. Okay, I wanted to show something. So our product is what is called as a protein agonist. That is, it can increase something or decrease something, or it can not do anything. That's what a protein agonist does. For example, 125 can increase, certain hormones in the body, 125 vitamin D. Ours will do the same thing. But if it is too high, ours can bring it back to normal. Or if it is normal, it won't touch it. That's what it is. So this is exactly what it does. See, our body, the reason LDL is important is because LDL carries cholesterol to all the organ and tissues of the body. We go in the sun and make vitamin D3. Then it has to go to the liver, it makes 25 hydroxy vitamin D3. In the kidney, it makes 125. This then goes into the nucleus, binds to the nuclear receptors, and produces all the proteins we need. Could be insulin, it could be leptin, it could be thyroid hormone, whatever. So we bypass all these steps. We don't need to go into the sun to make the product. We can directly bind to the vitamin D receptor and produce whatever our body needs. And why is the vitamin D receptor important in infectious disease, for example? You see, in TB, what happens is when the bacteria invade your body, the first thing they do, they block the vitamin D receptor because they know this guy is responsible for your innate immunity. So once they block it, your immunity is no longer working. So the adaptive is not working, so they begin to multiply. And this is true of every disease. For example, HIV is deadly because HIV completely blocks the activity of the vitamin D receptor, 100%. And TB is it decreased by 3.3-fold. Borrelia is down by 50-fold, and Epstein-Barr virus is down by 32-fold. So your immunity is working only 3% of the time when you get invaded by this bacteria. So what Nano does is very simple. It binds to the vitamin D receptor. So let's say this is the microbe is bound to the vitamin D receptor. Nano will go and displace that virus from the vitamin D receptor and allows the vitamin D to function, which is innate immunity. So that's simple. So one of the things we did to find out how the gene expression happens is to take THP1 cell. This is a leukemia monocyte cell, which is normally used, where we can learn all about the macrophage activities, of the cell. And we got thousands of genes, like 6,300 genes we got. And we then filtered it down to around 750 because there's no program that can handle that many the genes. And what we found is that a lot of them are regulatory genes. By what we mean by regulatory genes is one gene controls hundreds of other genes. So we have 23,000 genes. Probably these guys control all the genes. And there are many pathways and everything else. But the more important thing is when you take this product, there are 242,000 gene to gene interactions that happen in the body. To put it in perspective, metformin, when you take metformin for diabetes, you get 880 gene to gene interactions. We get 242,000. And what I mean, we also have 4,700 feedback loops. This is what is called a feedback loop, which most drugs don't have a feedback loop. Like if you take insulin today, injection, it knows only how to lower sugar. It doesn't know beyond that. So here you get a signal and you get a terminal output. If it is more or less, that signal is sent back. And this can go up or go down or remain the same.
My friend, we probably should wrap this part up and allow people to ask questions pretty shortly. If you've got a couple of final slides you want to
finish.
go.
2 or 3 slides. This is the gene-gene interaction. We have mapped 242,000 genes. We've also compared this, as Richard referred to, how it produces a human genome. We have looked at the human genome. These are all the biological processes, the colored wheels. And this is our product in the same cell. You can see it's very similar. So what is happening is when you take this product, it goes and compares itself with the human genome. And whatever is missing is put in. Whatever is extra is removed. If it is the same, it's not touched. And that's how it usually happens. So I'm going to leave it at that and open the floor to questions that people may have. If you need, I have 5 slides I want to show you in regard to mental health, which is very important. Potential application which we are working on, which is that, see, this is the neuron. And these areas where the synaptic transmission happens, these are the dendritic spines between one neuron and the other neuron. And there is a gene called CAMKV, which is responsible for building all these networks, without which it doesn't happen. And why is that important? Because dendritic spine dysfunction is responsible in all these neurological diseases. And what we found in our work was this gene in the brain increases at least an average of 6,000 to 1,000-fold. So it is just building all the networks. And the other one that I wanted to say was, we have already published this work. People use this product called gabapentin. I'm sure you people know. Our product is about 500 to 3,000 times more potent than gabapentin. And gabapentin is used in a lot of neurological diseases. So with that, I'll open the floor for questioning, whatever questions you have.
Thank you, Dr. Raghu.
Before you start the questions,
Please.
Rex, I will just say that one way to look at what Raghu has done here is that Raghu has basically turned the paradigm of approaching health upside down. The focus of not just allopathic medicine, but in fact, alternative approaches to health has been focused on the biology. This focuses on the lipid envelope. Medicine and so on has tended to focus on what the biology is doing, when the real control system is actually in the lipid, that envelope that encases our biology, and more particularly a little particle that's a lipid that actually steps inside the cell and regulates it. This has not been understood. So it gives you a way of beginning to grasp what he's done. It's truly profound in its impact. So with that, I shall pass over to the questions.
Wonderful. Thank you, Richard. There was one question that said, are there any contraindications? And Dr. Raghu is very direct. No. But maybe you could explain why, Dr. Raghu.
This is food we eat every day. So you would have had contraindications to it too, if you had it before. If you're eating grapes, you're eating broccoli, you're eating pasta, you're eating bread, rice, it's already there. Millet. So it's part of our body. It's like water. What are the contraindications of water? I don't know.
And Mitzi, go ahead. It's going to be a little tricky because I've got Dr. Raghu on full screen and I'm only seeing a small number. And I've got Mitzi first and then Jane next. Mitzi, go ahead, please.
And then Mark, it looks like, has his hand up also.
Oh, wonderful. Yes.
Thank you, Dr. Raghu, Dr. Presser. So appreciative. I'm just curious if you intend to do any larger formal studies on mental illness specifically. And if so, where do you find your participants?
I didn't get I didn't hear. What did you say?
Do you intend to do any formal large studies on mental illness? specific
we
mental
just,
illnesses.
we just found out recently, we know that it is working, but formal studies we haven't done, and any of you want to do it, we're most welcome, because it's safe product, you can give it to anybody. We got interested only recently. This is the last frontier for me, because we had a person who wrote to us and said, his sister had bipolar disorder, and after 3 days it was gone. That got a thing going. We have had a few reports of ADHD kids improving, and people with Alzheimer's responding a little more. So we haven't gone there yet, but now we needed the proof. And I know that all the genes that are generated in the new, we found that, like, for example, 37% of the genes that are produced by Nano are also present in the brain. So we knew it plays a big part. That is the largest number of genes we found was in the brain in our cell studies. So we just started on it, but we have the proof now that there are, all the genes are being produced which can produce neurons in the body. So that explains a lot of people why Parkinson's can be cured. My mother had Parkinson's, it down 90%, now she's 95. So we know all these things. So most of the time what we do is we have people reporting to us of all the things that happened to them. And after that, we go back and do the cell studies, the reverse of what the pharma does.
Well, thank you for that. And if you ever are short on people who you want to join a study, let us know at Journey's Dream.
Hey, we are most welcome. We will definitely support you. We have all the data for it. I know all the genes that are involved in dopamine or serotonin or whatever. We have the network with the microRNAs. We can go to the minutest detail and correlate it with any of the clinical data you may get.
That's exciting. Thank you.
And Jane, thank you, Mitzi.
You got to unmute it.
Yeah. Does it matter when you take it? Like, is it okay to take it with food? It doesn't. Okay, you can take it anytime you want, regardless of the food, drink, anything.
This is what it looks like. This is a different one I have. All you have to do is.
Right. I'm taking it, but it doesn't matter if you take it after you eat, before you eat, don't eat.
The minute it hits the tongue, it's absorbed into the cells, because the cells in our tongue have nuclear receptors. All cells have nuclear receptors. Immediately it picks it up. It doesn't even get to the stomach or digestive system or whatever. No way.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Jane. And Mark?
Yeah, I've got actually a couple of questions. So the first question is more personal, where I recognized, and I had a mental health thing, and I went on the nutrient protocol, and I've been taking Nanosoma for, boy, it's well over a year, probably 12 or 14 months or so. And what I found about 6 months ago is I just was intuitively guided to cut all the vitamins I was taking in half. It just felt like too much. I would feel nauseous if I took them all. And I'm curious if you've heard or what's your take on that part?
No, if you went off vitamins, you felt nauseous?
No, if I took all the vitamins that I was taking before, I felt nauseous. I was taking too many after a while on Nanosoma, and so I cut it back, and it was fine. And
yeah,
health, as far as I could tell, has still been good.
We have seen this across the board. You see, people don't understand that. For example, just to give you a perspective, the vitamin D that you produce in the sun is a water-soluble vitamin D. What we take as a pill is a fat-soluble vitamin D. Two different things, So if you're obese, it's not going to get into your system. That's the first thing. So whatever the body produces, in what form it is, we don't know. But it's far more effective that when you have other things come in, what you're basically doing is you're creating a traffic jam inside your body for all these nutrients to compete for the cell. And the stronger one wins out by telling you, hey, this is how it works actually. For example, I will tell you my own personal experience when I started using it. I made many copious notes about it. If ever I took more than 2 or 3 tablespoons of rice extra, this is after 6 months, I had to go and poop. So next time my brain said, don't eat. So I stopped. This is exactly what's happening to you. For example, I have curbed the complete use of sugar. There is no addiction for sugar for me, okay? Zero. All my alcohol, if I look at alcohol, I'm totally turned off. Totally turned off. So it curbs. You know, if I take more than 2 pieces of chocolate, it'll give me a headache. And then what you have to do is to correlate that 3rd piece with this headache. Next time you will have the 2nd piece. It controls what you eat. It's amazing. I mean, I had breakfast in the morning, like pancake, you know, all protein. And I had one lunch after about 8 hours. That's it for my day. But I'm not tired, because what happens is this stuff will, you know, you are driving a car which is 20 miles an hour before you start Nano Soma. Now you're going at 50 miles an hour. It's telling you, hey, I don't need that much. You know, I need less gas. So eat less. You will notice over time, you will eat less and less. And it also picks out, for me at least, I can see, I can't take potato chips because there are too many chemicals. It immediately gets it out of the system. It detoxifies me completely. If I eat in many restaurants food, I come home next day, I know I'm getting detoxified right away. So it senses, because this molecule, I believe, was the world's first molecule. It made the cell. It knows who was allowed into the cave. You know, by the cave, I mean inside the cell. So anybody else who comes from outside is usually kicked out. That could be viruses, that could be anything that don't belong there. And that's why it's able to cleanse the system. And I see it all the time. I mean, I can eat 4 or 5 pieces of potato chips, immediately says chemicals, this gone. It's very intuitive. It's got natural intelligence, let's put it that way. It recognizes that some of the things in the potato chips are not natural. And it immediately detoxified. It's very good at detoxifying. I mean, I see it some people will have it through the feces, some people will have it through urine or sweat, but it's very good at detoxifying.
Dr. Raghu, I know.
If I can just add a little to that answer, Mark, being specific.
Sure.
Raghu says when you use Nanosoma, you don't need any vitamin supplements or any other nutritional supplements, period.
The reason,
would you say that, Raghu?
Yeah.
Am I not misquoting you?
See, people don't understand that you get a certain disease because you're deficient, let's say, in iron. Why are you deficient in iron? Because your body, when you're eating, let's say, spinach which contains iron, is not picking up the iron from the spinach. Why? Because you don't have the gene, the iron transporter being developed by your body. There's a gene for, to transport iron. And therefore, like ferritin is one of the genes. Therefore, you don't absorb the iron. But once you fix the immune system, that gene will be produced the minute you have spinach. It says, here comes iron, I pick it up. These are called nutrient sensing genes. There's a sodium transporter, glucose transporter, potassium transporter, phosphate. These are all the guys waiting for you. But if the immune system is working, it will pick it up. So it won't pick it up if you have a synthetic one.
There's a really important point here I would like to make also. Dr. Raghu is speaking as if Nanosoma is doing it. And I want to be really clear, as I understand it, that's not the case. Nanosoma is triggering the body to perform and function as it's designed to perform and function, relative to vitamins, nutrients, food absorption. So it's making the body know what it is designed to be. It's reflecting it to it. Isn't that correct, doctor?
Correct. What it's doing is, when you take Nanosoma, it says, I'm the teacher. I gave you an education 2 billion years ago. Now I come to recertify you. I found that you have flunked the exam. So let's see if I educate you, and let's see if you pass the exam. That's exactly what's happening.
Wonderful. And Mark, did you get your questions answered, brother?
The first one. The second question I had is really curious what and with all the studies you've done what are you finding in terms of the reception with the medical community? Are you seeing that there's a certain type of practitioner that really embrace this? Are you seeing a certain type reject it? You know, what's and
I would say in the medical community, it's about a 99% rejection rate. In my pharmaceutical community, it's about 99.9% rejection rate. But what I find is the people who are looking for answers get it. See,
okay.
People go to the doctor. He's not able to, they give this pill, that pill. After a few years, they start thinking, gee, why is it not working? Why am I suffering? Then when they begin to think, that's when, you know, this product comes in and says, okay, I fixed you. Once it's fixed, it's over. So I have a great resistance from, you know, I get disinvited to functions and calls. My paper on COVID has 1.5 years, is still not published. Every journal rejected it, even though it is more potent than anything known to man. We could have solved the COVID problem in 1 week, but that's not what meant to be. But I think the people who get it are those who are sort of knowledge of their, in tune with their body, you know. They're not outsourcing their health. See, health is priceless, but a lot of people outsource their health. Hey, doctor, here's my health. You take care of it. They won't give you my email and password, but they will give your health away, you know. But I find that among the people, because a lot of them are looking for answers, it's an enormous appeal. This is going to be driven by people, not by institutions. People, everybody in the world has some kind of medical problem. There is no drug for it. I mean, there was a woman in Arizona. She couldn't walk she couldn't walk bare feet on grass for 20 years. And Nano did it in 1 day. Now, you know, such people are the ones who will spread the word. You know?
If I can just add a little to that answer, I would say if we wind the clock back by a year, there was pretty much no medical practitioner of any type, natural, allopathic, or any other, that could actually hear that this product could exist or do anything. That has begun to shift quite markedly, and it started particularly with the integrated medicine doctors, but not only. We are beginning to see a small number of allopathically trained doctors beginning to be open to this. So I would say there is a plan for the unfolding of this product in the world that's not under Raghu's control or mine. There is a much, much bigger agenda controlling this, and I would call it Metadicol's agenda or Nanosoma's agenda, not ours. And so there is this waking up that's going on, and we are seeing more and more health practitioners of many types beginning to embrace this product. Still not many in the allopathic world because they've been programmed to sell pharmaceuticals. That's what their job is.
Thank you, Richard. Mark, would you do me a favor and make sure everybody has the link? It would be in your email, but we want to make sure that you know that Dr. Richard and Raghu are both very committed to what Journey's dream mission is. And all the profits that we receive after expenses, obviously the profits, 100% of the profits go to Journey's Dream of any of your purchases, as long as you purchase on Journey's Dream's website, goes to Journey's Dream and or both the Mensa Research Institute as well, because we co-sponsored the Integrated Mental Health Summit. So I wanted to mention that as well. And I know some of you will be dropping off, but we're going to keep going. Is it okay, Dr. Richard? And
no problem.
Yep. Okay, good. So Kim, I think you're next with your question. Would you please unmute and go ahead and ask your question? And thank you for being so patient.
Hi. Oh, sure. Gladly. I wanted to find out, as far as Herxheimer reactions, is that something that's common in people who have had a lot of issues?
Which?
A Herxheimer?
Alzheimer?
No, Herxheimer.
What is that?
Well, detox symptoms, you know, when you drink too much healthy food and you get sick from it. Sometimes you go through, you know, muscle aches and headaches, and
yeah. So
sometimes you...
one example I can tell you is this: We had a Russian friend in Zurich, and he used to drink vodka every day at night. You can't separate Russians from the vodka. But he always said that he took 5 sprays of Nano before he went to sleep. In the morning, he woke up without a hangover. So this we know. And we've given it to people who drink alcohol in India, some of the politicians and police, and they all complained to me after a week that they lost the taste for alcohol.
So Kim, it's very common for people to experience what I would call a healing crisis, which I think is just another term for what you're describing, because what your body is being triggered to do is clear everything that doesn't belong. You know, healing crises are not rare with natural healing modalities, as you would probably know. And we see all manner of things. Not everybody goes through it, but it's not uncommon. And so, you know, we do suggest you to be open to it because the body is healing itself. The body is clearing itself of stuff that doesn't belong. And so a reaction is not that rare. I'm not saying it happens to everybody or even 50% of people, but it's not uncommon to see some kind of healing response, healing crisis, if you like, not necessarily a crisis, but to use the term broadly, when people begin to use this product. And I would suggest if you're sharing it with other people to alert them to this. And some people misunderstand it. I would also say that it's not unusual for people to find this has some kind of taste to it when they begin to use it, whether it be the most common is bitter. Some people describe it as soapy or like coconut. Some people even describe it as being like vomit. And the thing is, this is not about Nanosoma. It's about the state of the individual's body. And as you use it over time, it's just like taking water. Yes, it's energized water, but it has no taste. And, you know, this can take, 6 months or more in some cases to settle down. But people who don't understand what's happening here, that their body is being triggered to heal, if you will, think that it's the taste is associated with the product. It's actually not.
That's excellent. Thank you, Richard.
This goes along with a question that was in the chat by Dr. Michael Rice too. Could you comment about different protocols on how to use the Nanosoma? In particular, if somebody is really sick with like digestive issues and Crohn's and all that, anybody who has some type of digestion type of problem versus someone who's semi-healthy versus someone with Parkinson's, etc.
Richard, we have put the protocol.
Yes, we have put together a startup protocol. I mean, the simple answer is that when you've settled into using it, the guideline is the same, which is 5 sprays once a day. Again, we are a little stuck in the modality of treating it like a medicine, if you will. It's not, it's food. And so there is a place for a startup protocol. And what Raghu has suggested is 5 sprays 4 times a day until you use up the first bottle, and then 5 sprays twice a day until you use up the second bottle, and then settle into 5 sprays once a day. Now, there's no reason why you can't use more. And for example, if you are experiencing some kind of health symptoms, or if, for example, if you want to clear the impact of the ever-present jabs from your body, which certainly is a good thing to do, then we recommend that you use 5 sprays every 4 hours for 3 days to clear all of that out of your body. So basically, these are startup protocols. And if you are drawn to use it 2 or 3 times a day because you have a significant health issue that you want to address, then by all means do it. But it's not a requirement to do it. 5 sprays once a day, by and large, will sustain what you need. Having said that, I know Raghu uses it more than once a day, and I use it typically twice a day. And so, there's no downside to do it. You can drink, once you cleared any kind of detox reactions or healing crisis issues and so on, you could drink a liter of this a day without any damage to you. Expensive, but you could do it.
Not, you need to have 25,000 bottles in one day to get toxic. So,
25,000.
so you're really talking about quite a few. It's 12. It's a lot of 300. You know, it's so much you won't believe it. You can't even do it in one day. So.
Well, that's about a 15-day supply for the U.S. store, right, Richard?
That's about it, yeah.
About it, not maybe less. So.
Yeah. I did want to share something. We're on a lull with questions. I did want to share something. I was speaking with my daughter, Brea. She's been using the product for almost a year now as well. And my wife and I have been both using it for a year. Actually, our entire team on Journey's Dream is using the product and the gel. And I had a question in the chat that said, when will the gel be available? We do have the gel available, and it's wonderful. We've had it, we've been using it now, Mitzi and I, for over a week, and I really love it. It's got uses that I can use it for that are different than the actual spray itself, but it functions the same. But I wanted to mention that, and I hadn't really considered this, but I have not had a cold or any symptomology of, quote, an illness since I started using Nanosoma. And my daughter said the same thing. And she actually talked about one of her granddaughters who is 6, who actually used the Nanosoma and uses it daily as well. And she had a bout with some real, she got some food or something, some type of poisoning. And it just really supported her moving through it very well. So there's lots of other things. And again, Nanosoma isn't doing it. It's giving the body what it needs so it can perform exactly the way it wants to and the way it's designed to. So I wanted to mention that too as well.
Just on that subject, Raghu has shared with me that the people who actually make the product in bulk in Switzerland, their team have been using Nanosoma for 10 years. And they've not had one sick day on the entire team in that 10 years. Yes, I think there have been a few skiing accidents and various things of that nature, but no one's had a day off sick in a decade.
Wonderful. Yeah, Brea was responding with a 6-year-old and a 3-year-old in our home. It really is remarkable how continually healthy we have been for the past year. And really, it's a matter of just helping you see the value and the benefit of what Nanosoma can bring for you. And, you know, the beautiful thing is, and Richard and I in private conversations, that he's shared this with me, he said, it's almost like Nanosoma will find you. I know that may sound a little strange to many of you, and he's smiling because he knows that's how it works. But I found that to be true as well. And there's one person I'll say, hey, Nanosoma sounds great. You want to try it? No. And another person, hey, Nanosoma sounds great. You want to try it? I'd love to. Where can I get it? And it's like, wow. And Richard and Raghu, you could speak to how much actual advertising have you done worldwide?
Very little, or zero. It's only word of mouth. Other than the website, we haven't done anything. We talk in this, like these meetings, we have Zoom meetings, we have done quite a few, but beyond that, it's pure word of mouth. I mean, I had people last week write to me from Papua New Guinea. Papua New Guinea is like the little island of Indonesia that he heard about Nanosoma. So it has reached some jungle somewhere, you know, near Australia.
I love it.
And I had 2 women.
And I will say that I've certainly tried some forms of advertising, but it really hasn't worked. And I won't be doing any more of it. And people come to me saying, what about this? I said, no, the key issue is sharing the information about it with people whose ears are open. And that's the essence of it. I've had people who have contacted me and said, I read an article about it or this or that, and buying it to resell it in thousands of bottles, sight unseen. So it communicates to people on many, many levels. There is a woman in the US who contacted me and she said, when I was 12, I had a vision of running water and I heard this would heal my health conditions and would heal the world. And when I saw the name Nanosoma, just saw the name, I knew that this was the running water that I saw as a 12-year-old. And so, you know, she's embraced it incredibly to help spread it across the world. So, you know, these are the kind of reactions that we see from people. It's truly profound. And yes, there are a lot of people whose ears have cotton wool in them. You know, I have two sisters who have significant health issues. They're like me, got a few years under their belt, and I expect they will never use this product. May I be wrong?
We hope you are. I think one of the things that Michael wrote here, let's see, what was it? Document what was just said about your sick days in that company, and every major corporation will buy it to supply their employees. And I think
I will tell you a little story just very quickly. There's a man here in Melbourne. My friend John spoke to him, took his call yesterday. He runs I think a food distribution company. It's being demanded that people get the jab here in many roles. They're working very hard, very dark country, I'm afraid. And he has said that he will make Nanosoma available to all his 80 employees if they have to go down that path, which certainly seems to be the case. So he's basically going to offer it to all his staff. And we're going to see that happen more and more, as you say, Rex.
Wonderful. Thank
Spoken
you.
to corporations, but what happens is they will have one of their medical officers, and this guy was the big block. He said, I don't know about medicine, but talk to our medical guy. You know, this is what happens. So they are closed mind. So I haven't been able to penetrate that thing.
Well, we're hoping to connect the Optimal Beam program and, you know, be able to make available the Nanosoma as well. It's our main program through Journey's Dream. I do have Vicki Taylor asking a question. I remember some talk about using MMS, chlorine dioxide, and citric acid or hydro something acid. Can you review this, and why should someone use them together?
No, I see, they use chlorine oxide. Now, that's not a problem, but there is no need to do it, because what happens is when nano triggers the body to produce something called a gene called MPO, myeloperoxidase gene. That gene produces the same hypochlorous acid, which is the chlorine dioxide in the body. So it's far more effective than taking it. That's what I meant.
And Vicki, does that answer your question?
So really, to add to that, again, when
Yes,
you're using Nanosoma, you can forget all these other things. People still think more is better. You know, I've been using 4 or 5 things in the past that I've found value from. I'm going to keep using them as well. Some of them, you know, you don't need to do that anymore. It takes a while for people to get that. This is truly profound in its impact.
Well, I love your input, Michael. Is it will replace healthcare because of profit presented properly, and it is a no-brainer for corporations. And
Absolutely, it's a no-brainer. But I think we have some people that are blocking. They have their own vested interest to keep their jobs. I mean, I'll tell you the story. In 2012, maybe 2012, I gave a presentation to one of the corporations. And I know because one of my vice president friends of mine is a vice president of the corporation, very big, you know, international corporation, pharmaceutical. After I finished the presentation, at that time I had much less information than what I have now. The president of the company told them, how many of you want to pursue this? Because if we do, there will be only one seat across me. So everybody voted against it. So, you know, there are a lot of vested interests here. It's very hard to break that. The only way it's going to break is like a lady who called me from a big hospital in San Francisco yesterday. She said, I want to talk to you. Why? Because all my patients are talking about Nanosoma, so I wanted to talk to you. This is how it will happen. It won't happen any other way, because she is treating COVID patients, and she finds that her patient went and got nano and got cured. And when they came and said, what did you do different? She thought she had done something. No, we took this bottle. So she called me right away. She said she's prepared to do a study. I said, do it. Tell you something interesting, which is in 2008, before I started this project, in India, we are full of astrologers, and that guy went to my friend, is a very good guy, and I said, what do you think of this business? Should I do it? Well, he said, you're looking for one result, you will get a million times the result. But remember one thing, he said, don't ever promote the product, because the product will promote itself. And by 2022, it'll be, he said, it'll spread at the baseline and then just rise like a volcano. This is what he told me in 2008. So I see that little trend happening.
Well, and there's so much beauty in what we're hearing. I would encourage everyone to keep an open mind. And the reason I say that is my observation on a very personal level after using Nanosoma regularly, and I've explored a lot because that's kind of what I do. I explore, one dose in the morning, one dose in the afternoon, one dose at night. I just did one dose for quite a while. I did 3 doses and 2 doses, and I played around with it. But the thing that I have become aware of is that, like many things, I don't know if many of you have actually just sat down and just been with your food that you're putting in your body. Literally just pausing all of the noise, everything, and just appreciate the meal you're eating. And what you'll find is that food will start to appear to communicate back to you. And it's that communication that generates a sense of awareness in an individual as to what is ideal to put in their bodies and what is not. And why I'm sharing this with you, I have never, and I have been using, I owned a health food store. My wife and I owned a health food store in 1983, I think, till 87. And we were in the early phases of health food store business. So we've been exploring vitamins and nutrients and nutraceuticals for as long as that. And never once have I found something that was as, it sounds very odd, but from my experience, it's aware of what it is. And when I put it in my body, I can feel it in my body. It's doing something that's constructive and healthy. And it's the reason that we encouraged us to be able to support it by exposing our mental health challenged friends in the world that come to Journey's Dream. And you can have any philosophy, whether it be through the Optimal Being program or through the Journey's Dream. You can have any theology, any philosophy, any belief that you want. But what you will find is our best version of conscious, active, present love being delivered through any product that we recommend and any program that we recommend. And Nanosoma found its way to Journey's Dream for that reason, because it is a product that represents pure love in our world. And so that's where I choose to put my focus. And I found it to be very helpful for people who might be on the straddle and the fence. And that's neither saying plus or minus to what both of you are sharing today. And I so appreciate it. And Raghu, did you have anything else you want to share? I can just
want to tell people ask me how it works. I said it's very simple. It's food. How does the food contains DNA? DNA is the language of our cells. So when you eat that food, the DNA of the cell talks to the DNA of the food and they communicate. When you take a drug, there is no DNA in the drug. There is no communication. One is speaking Spanish, other speaking Russian, and there is warfare. That's how simple it is. The second thing why it works, which I've recently come to the conclusion, is your body is 70% water approximately, give or take 5%. If you calculate in terms of water molecules, your body is 99.8% water. Molecules. Your body is 99.8% water molecules, because that's how we calculate. Our products is 99.96% water molecules. there is 0.04% of so-called ingredient. So the key is water, the pristine water we talk about, we come back to that. It's that water. People can't believe that the water is doing it, but water has functions. So my product blends in with the water molecules of the body. They're very similar in percentage. Whereas when you take a pill, there's no water there, nothing. So you need to understand how nature works. Like meets like, it's the birds of the feather flock together. It's exactly what happens here.
I know I did have one question. Thank you, Dr. Raghavan. That was excellent. There is one person on our call that actually has a family member who is dealing with Parkinson's. Can you address how that works specifically with Parkinson's?
Yeah, see this Parkinson's, if you look up FDA website, the key is a cytokine called TNF alpha. So all the drugs for Parkinson's are TNF alpha inhibitors, Our product is a TNF alpha inhibitor. So
that's pretty simple. It's almost like Nanosoma adjusts itself to the situation or condition that it's working with in the body.
Absolutely. Whatever the problem, it shines light to the body's innate immunity, adaptive immunity. It says, guys, this is the problem. This is the lesson number 22 I gave you. You passed it in the 3rd semester. Redo this. That's what it is. Because we have not failed with any patient for anything. It always seems to figure out what is wrong with you. This is the best part about it. See, I will tell you, I had, in the back of my spine, a lipoma which has been there for God knows how long. It never went. And suddenly in the last 1 month, I can't find it. So it wasn't important to it, but it decided, okay, it's 10 years now, I give him a break, get rid of this guy. So it's cleansing everything in the body one by one. This was the guy last on the list. To you don't like it, but you want it to go away tomorrow. It's not going to do that. It's going to do what it decides to do. It's very different.
Well,
again,
good,
just a comment.
Sure.
Just a comment about that. That question is typical of so many that happen because we have been convinced that dis-ease in the body is disease. It's just an expression of dis-ease, of a less than optimally functioning human system. That's all it is. Parkinson's, type 1, type 2 diabetes, thyroid issues, it's all the same. All just examples of the body not functioning optimally. And when you put Nanosoma in the body, it triggers it to function optimally. You can call that less than optimal condition any name that we've been persuaded to give it. It doesn't matter. And this is a key thing that people need to get. And it's not instant for most people.
Well, and the gentleman that I'm speaking to, and he knows who exactly this is, and he is very clear that is the fundamental part of all of his teachings, and he is a magnificent teacher, and he knows exactly what you just said, and he's in full agreement, as am I. Our bodies don't get what they need, and then we have exactly what you were describing. Awesome. It says, can you share the paper you submitted regarding COVID and no one would publish?
Yeah, if you go to Richard, do you have that link?
Yes, I will send a link.
Yeah, Research Square. I have the final. I think it's nearly been accepted. So hopefully in the next 1 month, it will get published, I think. I'm just doing some minor editing. So we passed the difficult part. So some other journal. It's not a bad journal, but it'll get publicity.
That sounds great. So you've both been incredibly generous, and most people stayed the whole time. We do appreciate everyone. Were there any other last moment questions that came to your mind throughout this conversation? I don't see any hands being raised, but I'll wait a moment. Well, while we're waiting, we're hearing a lot of people say thank you so much for your time and your wisdom. And also, I want to extend from all of us, our great deal of appreciation and your diligence with staying true to the principles that you live by, Richard, and also Dr. Raghu, in that it comes forward in your communications. And it also comes forward in the marvelous product that you have made available for all of us. And we're all very blessed to be a part of this at the early phases. And we welcome all of your support. And then if you choose, come back to Journey's Dream to support our missions along with Mensa Medical. And we are here to change the world and change the narrative on mental health and wellness. And we appreciate both of you immeasurably for taking up so much of your time. And thank you everyone for being a part of this call.
Thank you, Rex.
Thank you. Thank you. Good night, everybody.
Good night, everyone.